Hey, Dr. Fantastic. Thanks for having me here, and thanks for having me answer the question. I'm Jerry Avalos. I do have a patent on some pretty innovative and new technology regarding, entanglement principles and composite material for the more technical description. Um, and Monty and I have met each other this past year in Conscious Life Expo here in LA in February. And yeah, we really synced up and have a lot of similar ideals and like to present these new and fun technology, things that we haven't had a chance to see yet. Just the exposure wasn't there. And so this is great, this platform to do this. And it does get into a lot of the new principles and understandings of science. The question about what is quantum entanglement, and there's a really highly technical answer for that one, and then there's the more lay one. And so we'll start with the technical one. The technical one is essentially when either atoms or subatomic particles vibrate at a similar frequency. And this similar frequency will express itself no matter the distance between, say, the two atoms or the two photons in the experiments. And usually in these experiments, they're using electromagnetic waves as well in a sense, entangle these different elements. And there's been other studies, and this is where the more lay examples come into play, is there's been experiments where they've done mouth swabs of a test subject, and they'll take that swab and put it on an EEG, miles away, sometimes like a mile, sometimes, hundreds of miles. And then they'll expose the person that's doing the experiment to a stimulus test. So they'll show them images of fires or happy babies, and then they'll measure the EEG. And they've seen where the person and their EEG responses, the reaction to it, is the same as those cells. They're miles and miles away. So, and in that sense, for us, practically speaking, this is an example of where we kind of know when, say, a loved one is calling before they do, or we kind of feel something, so to speak, off somewhere in the distance. It's not as like woo-woo as people think. It's actually more understanding of how we're all connected through entanglement. And this is where like the Be Fantastic movement is a great thing, because as we're all more positive, that sort of vibratory pattern starts to want to reverberate other places, and people try to sympathize in that sense. And that's a technical term even in relation to frequency science. Sympathetic vibrations is kind of another way you can describe this entanglement in that sense. And so generally speaking, in classic science terms, a sympathetic vibration would be like when you hear really big woofers in a car shaking things. The shaking would be the sympathetic vibration. But with entanglement, it's something similar, but it's usually on a electromagnetic scale, and sometimes on a photonic scale. And so there's still a lot that we don't understand about it, and there's a lot of scientists who have put in many, many years of study and do a lot of experiments day to day on this, and they're telling us more and more about it. And so people like myself will take these innovations and try to put them into practical usage, because they're dedicating their time so we can understand it more. And so here we are trying to share that knowledge and really make something good out of it.
That's a wonderful answer. Now, I understand that Einstein and a lot of his really intelligent group of friends came up with this in the 20s.
Yeah.
And since the 80s, it was proven. So it took a while to be proven, but is that correct?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And this is where the term sometimes comes up as spooky action at a distance, is what Einstein said. And this is that entanglement aspect of it. You have a lot of times the early experiments would be, say, with the quartz crystal. They'll notice the oscillation rates on the quartz crystals starting to synchronize after they've exposed them to, and then it would have been early lasers, so like copper tubes with candles is the early lasers in those days. And that's how they would entangle these things, and then they would measure these different oscillation rates, and they would find these analogous pulses. And like how Einstein was mentioning, because of these kind of things happen, it opens the door to like a lot of stuff that a lot of scientists just disregarded. So things like telepathy, or even the afterlife for that matter, because it gets into a concept of timelessness, and these different physical items, be they a photon or an atom, are linked inexplicably together no matter how far you take take them apart from each other. And then when in the laboratory, it sounds, oh my God, that's amazing. But then once again, we put in the classic context of humans and our experience on this planet. Like, I think it's just commonplace that once again we know when someone's calling or that someone needs us. It kind of instinctively comes to us, and so things like these entanglement principles actually help to explain these phenomena more than negate them, and that's what's really exciting right now, I think, in science in general.
Well, thank you, Jerry. That's wonderful, and let's help the world physically and mentally and any way we can. And that's why I'm really proud to be doing this movement. My wife thinks I'm crazy, and someone sent me a quote from Steve Jobs, and he said, "People crazy enough to think they can make change are the ones who make change." So I'm crazy enough to think it, and I'm going to do it. And with your help, we're going to do it in a physical manner as well.
Definitely.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you again.
Be fantastic, my friend.